You wake up every morning operating on a very specific assumption. You believe you are an independent agent. You set your own goals, you form your own opinions. Moving through your day, you make your own choices. But what if that baseline feeling of total normalcy is actually the precise sensation of being trapped? Look at this freely moving dot. When we hear the word prison, we immediately picture concrete walls and steel bars. But confinement doesn't require physical architecture. A prison is simply anything that restricts your intellectual or psychological movement, and the most effective limitations are the ones you can't see. A boundary is remarkably difficult to challenge when the captive doesn't even realize it exists. That deep feeling of personal autonomy is comforting, but we cannot actually claim to be free until we uncover the hidden inputs secretly making our choices for us. Think back to your childhood. You entered a world that was already fully built. Long before speaking, society handed you prepackaged definitions for success, money, status, and religion. You absorbed these foundational rules as absolute truths long before you developed the cognitive tools required to examine them. This diagram illustrates the biological driver behind passive acceptance. Our evolutionary need for social belonging easily overrides our desire for objective truth. To secure your place safely, you adopt unexamined ideas as your own. Notice how the structure locks. Those deeply held opinions we proudly call our core beliefs rarely start as personal choices. Most of the time, they are inherited survival mechanisms designed to ensure social acceptance. As we transition into adulthood, the mind begins fiercely protecting that inherited programming. It deploys internal enforcers to keep us safely inside the lines. The primary enforcer is fear. The fear of rejection, the fear of failure, and the fear of harsh criticism act as an invisible electric fence, stopping us cold the moment we try to step outside familiar cognitive boundaries. Confinement deepens through the mechanism of identity. Over years of repeating the same actions, we begin to fuse psychologically with our own limitations. Watch how this shifting organic shape is forced into a rigid, static mold. We commit this exact error when we interpret a temporary pattern of behavior as a permanent fixed definition of who I am. When you believe your limitations are your identity, external control is no longer required. You act as your own most effective guard. So if the mind is boxed in, why don't we notice the confinement and just naturally break out over time? We rely on modern distraction. An overwhelmed mind processing a relentless barrage of sensory input has absolutely zero bandwidth left for critical self-reflection. Whatever distraction fails to hide, certainty finishes off. It acts as the final seal. The exact moment you conclude that you already know everything important about a subject, your cognitive capacity to learn instantly shuts down. A mind sustained by endless distraction and absolute certainty creates a perfectly closed system. It renders an individual immune to new truths and entirely incapable of escape. Autonomy depends on possessing the critical awareness to understand why you have a specific desire in the first place. Because the mind locks itself in, these boundaries can only be dismantled through relentless self-inquiry. To dismantle the programming, you start by asking yourself 3 specific questions. Why do I believe this? Where did this idea come from? And what if I am wrong? The goal of this inquiry is not to live in a state of paranoia or suspicion. The objective is to finally operate in a state of conscious awareness. Take a hard look at the boundaries you currently accept as normal. What invisible prison might you still be living inside today?